probably going to do this on a weekly basis or maybe bi-monthly, and that is basically just make a video where I give you guys deck profiles and spotlights of the decks that you guys have seen in my replays. And the reason I don't just tack these on the end of the videos is because I don't know which ones people want to see and which ones people don't want to see. But then in the comment section, when people are like, hey, deck profile, where's the deck at, man? Then I know, hey, people want to see this. I can just slam them all together, and before people even click on the video, they already know what they're getting into. Now let me just address something right quick, which I got a lot of criticism from yesterday's videos. Everything from, oh my god, they're clickbaiting booby thumbnails, to LunaLights are trash, they're just glass cannon, they'll never be competitive, you are saying LunaLights are tier 0, you're a moron. Okay, let's just address those. For starters, in my opinion, this isn't clickbait. Yes, she does have like double D size like tits on this picture, but come on, let's be real. Like, this is actually a pretty accurate representation of what Leo Dancer actually looks like. Have you seen Leo Dancer? There's a reason that I put her in my top 10 over sexualized cards. It's because she's pretty provocative and sexy in the artwork itself. She's wearing basically nothing. I mean, I guess the cape is like the most clothing that she's wearing, but it's already a pretty spicy artwork. Now this is clickbait. This is not what Dark Magician Girl looks like at all. Like, for you to take this and turn it into this, like, that is clickbait. This is probably, if Konami did 2 more LunaLight arts, like, this wouldn't be that far-fetched. I mean, maybe the boobs are a little too big, but that's not clickbait in my opinion. The second, somehow LunaLights being a glass cannon means that, like, they can't compete with the meta. I don't understand that, because when people are like, oh, it's a glass cannon, it needs to either go off turn 1 or 2 or it's just not going to win, you do realize you basically just described Mermail and Dark Synchro, right? And if we don't trash those decks, then why are we arbitrarily trashing LunaLights? Like, I don't get that, and I'm not making an emotional argument here. I'm just making a factual argument. Like, in this format, Mermails have topped countless regionals. Dark Synchro has won 2 regionals this format, but nobody talks about how those are glass cannon decks that basically need to go off turn 1 or turn 2 and they can't win. Like, if you're asking me if LunaLights are a glass cannon deck, yes. And then the third thing is, let's just look up the word contend so people can understand what the word actually means. You guys can take a second to actually read what the word means, because that's what I put in the title. And all I was saying in yesterday's video is that I believe that LunaLights are going to basically go from tier 3, tier 3.5 to tier 2. Tier 2 decks, whether you like it or not, are decks that can contend with the meta. They can contend with tier 1 decks. It just means that they're not as inherently strong or consistent. And now what I'm saying is, you can take LunaLights and you can actually potentially top a regionals. Before, right now, you have no shot of doing that. And if you don't believe that these tier 2 decks can top regionals and win YCSs, or excuse me, top YCSs, then why did Infernoid just top 16 the YCS over the weekend? Like, you don't think that somebody played 10 rounds of Swiss and didn't play any meta decks? Like, why did I go 7-2 with barrier statues? Like, you think I didn't play any meta? Like, tier 2 decks are legitimate. They can do good at events. They might not be as good as Metaphos or ABC, but they're still legitimate decks. Now, the first of the 3 decks we're going to talk about is the LunaLight Zodiac build, and the first thing you guys will probably notice is you really don't have to change LunaLights all that much to incorporate the Zodiac Beast into the deck. For starters, Grand Shavadungo only runs 6 copies of Zodiac Beast cards, just Marmorat and then Triangle. Yeah, you do kind of miss out on things like Reincarnation Dance and the Purple Butterfly, but those cards aren't as important as being able to just go on the Bullhorn and tutor the entire archetype. It makes you a lot less reliant on opening with Fire Formation Tenki or opening Black Sheep, because Black Sheep is searchable from Bullhorn, and Bullhorn's even better than Tenki because it can search out your Miracle Fusion and Wolf. The second thing is, extra deck space has never really been an issue with LunaLights. Like, yeah, you have to add a lot of Zodiac Beasts into your extra deck. He's got 6 of them here in addition to an F-Zero, which just like makes it a lot easier for LunaLights to get over things like Dart Destroyer and Utopia the Lightning. But LunaLights don't have a problem with extra deck space because they only have 3 monsters, and most decks only run like a 2/2/2, so you have so much free space in LunaLights that has never been an issue. Another thing is the fact that, as I said before, you can now consistently blow up your own cards. LunaLights have multiple cards like Blue Cat and Wolf that trigger and replace themselves, but there's just never been a way to consistently like destroy those cards without having to run them into your opponent's monster. Now you can just put your Wolf in the, not Wolf, but Tiger in the Pendulum Zone. You can activate the Monster Reborn ability, and then you can basically just blow up your Tiger and you can Monster Reborn again. And it's just super effective because you get a +1, you get to cycle through all your resources extremely fast. You can take your your blue cat, you can turn it into something that's much more important, like, I don't know, a black sheep or something like that. And I don't know, everything just kind of works. Now, I look at GCD's build and I do see his token Into the Voids, which he did run in his Gem Knight build, which is, it's kind of standard because if you think about it, a lot of Konami's fusion decks as of recent have been super aggressive. So I kind of think that this makes a lot of sense. But personally, for me, I would probably like take out maybe one Into the Void, throw in like a Vanity's Emptiness and a Solemn Warning and be at 41 cards, because then if you make that super strong solid field of like double Leo Dancer plus like a Drantia, you flip over Vanities and it's like, what's your opponent gonna do? Twin Twister isn't that good against this deck to begin with, so if they have the Twin Twister, okay, they have it, but they're probably gonna side Twin Twister routes in general. Let's move on to the next deck. Then the second deck is our hyper fast Utopia build. The monsters in this build are fairly standard. This is the build that you guys saw drew 13 cards in one turn. Utopia basically is all level 4 because it's a rank 4 deck. You're going to want to run a bunch of like level 4 spellcasters. Usually the Clown Engine and Star Drawing is kind of like the main cards you use. You use a lot of double summons, as I like to call them, cards like Monk and Goblinberg that basically make instant rank 4s. And then you run a bunch of Gigabytes because it works specifically with the spellcasters, and it is a searchable card. It's also level 4. It just works really well. But the reason I call this a hyper fast version, which by the way, this is way faster than my version of Utopia, is because he runs not 1, not 2, but 3 copies of Generation Force, which can search out Exchange Change Tactics. And you guys know, if you have Exchange Change Tactics on the field and your opponent cannot stop your summons, basically all hell is going to break loose because you're going to draw 5 to 6 cards in that turn. And if he already has Exchange Change Tactics, he can actually search Exceed Gift, which can let you draw 2 cards, or he can get the defensive card Exceed Reflect, which can protect you from things like Kirin or Magispector Tornado, or just annoying cards like Dart Destroyer, any of those stupid targeting cards that you don't want to deal with. He has also 3 copies of Pot of Desires in this deck, so it's pretty much, guys, a given that in any turn he's going to draw a minimum of 2 cards. The only thing that can really stop Utopia when it really goes off a lot of times is back row, which is why most versions run 3 Twin Twisters. And you guys see, when you draw that many cards, you pretty much want to draw Twin Twisters because you want to consolidate your advantage by taking out your opponent's back row. Now, a couple of things. I think when Invasion Vengeance comes out, I think that this should probably be changed to 10 Goldfish for the totally awesome Bahamut Shark plays. I also think that there isn't necessarily a reason to run 2 Hope Zexal. I would probably, like in my version, I run Utopic Dragon because it essentially has a built-in monster reborn for Utopia monsters, and we know that if you reborn a Utopia from the grave, you can obviously stack a Lightning over top of it, and that's obviously really good offense. And then lastly, for the scumbags out there, we have our Dart Synchro Ruins FTK, and there actually isn't a lot to explain with this deck. For the most part, it operates almost identical to Dart Synchro, where you want to put your TG Hyper Librarian on the field very early, and then after that, you basically just spam the field with all of these Synchro monsters. Obviously, the best ones are like Formula Synchron or Stardust Charge Warrior and the Coral Dragon. Well, reverse that combo and it lets you draw 4 cards. The rest of the deck is just basically a whole bunch of draw support. Things like Upstart Goblin, Allure of Darkness, you have your Into the Void, you have Hand Destruction, cards that just thin your deck out. Into the Void is super important because usually with Dart Synchro, you'd have like 14, 15 cards in your hand, but in this deck, you want to consolidate that to the graveyard so that you can activate Ruins and you can just basically burn your opponent for game. The Upstart 1000 doesn't make a difference. Now, I know a lot of people have asked, what happens if you mill your blasting the Ruins? And honestly, I can't really sugarcoat it, guys. You're kind of fucked. If you happen to mill your blasting the Ruins with Charge of the Light Brigade or Solar Recharge, you pretty much will lose. I guess that's the reason why you play things like Omega and Trishula, so that you can potentially fall back on a Dart Synchro win condition where you're able to take a bunch of cards out of your opponent's hand. But for the most part, you just won't be able to FTK. You'll kind of have to grind them out or just get a big battle push or something like that. So anyways, these are the 3 decks, guys. I'm sorry I was so preachy at the beginning, but I just had to defend myself, man. People were just throwing so much shit at me, and I was like, wait a minute, it's just a big misunderstanding. Let's just understand what I was trying to say. Anyways, if you guys enjoyed the video, thumbs it up and subscribe if you have not already.